Good evening, and thank you for joining us. Tonight we're covering a series of deeply consequential developments across the Middle East and beyond, from a devastating school attack in Iran, drawing international condemnation, to civilian casualties in Afghanistan, an Israeli ground operation pushing into southern Lebanon, and a growing rift between the United States and its European allies over military involvement in the Strait of Hormuz. Let's get to it. Tonight, Amnesty International is pointing the finger squarely at the United States for a devastating attack on a school in the Iranian city of Minab. A strike the rights group says killed at least 170 people, the vast majority of them children. According to Amnesty's investigation, evidence at the site is consistent with the use of a Tomahawk cruise missile, a weapon exclusively in the U.S. military arsenal. The sheer scale of civilian death in this single incident is staggering, and it's already drawing comparisons to some of the worst attacks on civilian infrastructure in modern conflict. International humanitarian law is unambiguous. Schools are protected sites, and any attack on one demands rigorous justification and accountability. The United States has not, as of this broadcast, issued a detailed public response to Amnesty's findings. What we're watching for now is whether the UN Security Council takes up the matter formally, and whether allied nations begin to distance themselves from Washington's military posture in the region. This is the kind of event that reshapes the diplomatic landscape overnight. The human toll, children in a school, makes this not just a strategic story, but a profoundly moral one. In Afghanistan, 4 civilians, 3 of them children and 1 woman, have been killed in an attack on Khost province. A local official confirmed the deaths, though details about who carried out the strike and under what circumstances remain limited at this hour. What is clear is that civilian casualties continue to mount in a country that has endured decades of conflict, and that children remain disproportionately vulnerable. Khost province, located along the Afghan-Pakistani border, has long been a flashpoint for military operations and insurgent activity. Every report like this underscores the grinding, often invisible toll that ongoing violence takes on ordinary families, people who have no part in the fighting but bear its heaviest costs. International observers and humanitarian organizations have repeatedly called for greater protections for civilians in the region. We'll continue to follow this story as more information becomes available about the nature of the attack and whether any party claims responsibility or faces accountability. Israel has launched what it describes as limited and targeted ground operations in southern Lebanon, with Israeli forces attacking multiple towns across the border region. This marks a significant escalation, moving from airstrikes and artillery exchanges to boots on the ground. Israeli officials have framed the operation as necessary to neutralize threats along the northern border, though the scope of what limited means in practice remains to be seen. History tells us that Israeli ground incursions into Lebanon have a way of expanding beyond their initial parameters. Southern Lebanon has been a contested and volatile zone for decades, and any ground presence raises the stakes dramatically, not just militarily, but diplomatically. Lebanon's government has condemned the operation, and regional powers are watching closely. The risk of a broader conflict, drawing in additional actors, including Iran and its network of allied groups, is very real. Civilians in southern Lebanese towns are once again caught in the crossfire, facing displacement and danger. The international community will be pressing hard for clarity on Israel's objectives and timeline, because in this part of the world, limited operations have a long history of becoming anything but. A significant transatlantic rift is widening tonight. European leaders are pushing back firmly against U.S. President Donald Trump's call for NATO allies to help secure the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most critical oil choke points. The pushback comes as oil prices continue to soar amid escalating tensions across the Middle East. Trump has argued that European nations, heavily dependent on energy flowing through the strait, should share the military burden of keeping it open, but key European capitals are saying no, signaling deep reluctance to be drawn into what they see as an increasingly unpredictable U.S.-led military posture in the region. This isn't just a policy disagreement. It reflects a fundamental tension within the Western alliance about the direction of the conflict, the risks of escalation, and who bears responsibility for the consequences. For global markets, the standoff is adding another layer of uncertainty to already volatile energy prices. For ordinary consumers, that means the cost of fuel and goods could continue climbing. What's next is a critical question. If Europe won't join, does the U.S. go it alone? And what does that mean for NATO cohesion at a moment when unity matters most? Tonight, we've covered an extraordinarily heavy set of stories, from the devastating school strike in Iran and civilian deaths in Afghanistan, to Israel's ground push into Lebanon, and a deepening divide between the U.S. and Europe over the Strait of Hormuz. The through line is clear. The human cost of these conflicts continues to rise, and the path toward resolution remains uncertain. I'm grateful you spent this time with us. Stay informed and stay safe. Good night.